What breaks first? A $35 million wall of missiles or 3 transformers worth of blackout? At 2:47 a.m., Ukraine bets on the cheaper answer. 30 low-cost N196s, decoys hidden in the last wave, and a pop-up tactic that drags Russia's S-400S into an expensive losing math problem. Keep watching to see how a BLEV, a 50 hertz frequency wobble, and a supply chain with no easy replacements can do more damage than a week of artillery. If you think air superiority decides wars, this single station's failure will challenge that belief. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. 5 hours behind Kremlin walls produced a familiar verdict. Very useful and highly substantive, and no compromise. The sticking points didn't budge. NATO security lines, the fate of Donbass, the terms that decide what the map looks like and who guarantees it. The meeting ended with the same polite language both sides use when the center doesn't move. So the calendar moved instead. Days later, Moscow's knights answered the stalemate with flicker and silence. A diplomatic stall shifts incentives on the ground. When talks halt, pressure has to show up somewhere else. Artillery can pound trenches all week and move a front by meters. Power stations run the rails, hospitals, and command bunkers every hour. If you want leverage without pledging a new army, you look at nodes that turn electrons into authority. That's why a generating and transmission hub outside the capital suddenly mattered more than another skirmish line. You're not trying to win a town, you're trying to force a choice in a control room. Enter Shatura. Not a symbol, a system. The plant feeds the ring that steadies Moscow's frequency and backs up the Kremlin's command grid when other lines sag. Dispatchers live or die by stability, not slogans. A station like this isn't just megawatts, it's inertia, voltage control, and a set of transformers that let a capital breathe through peak load. Take a slice out of that, and the entire region feels the wobble. Street lights step and dim. Heat loops fall out. Backup routes take stress they weren't built to carry for long. Operators favor a narrow window before dawn. At 2:47 a.m., traffic drops. Air lanes quiet and civilian radars go sparse. Urban RF noise sinks. Thermal plumes cool. Ground clutter helps the small and slow. Air defenders face screens with fewer baselines to compare, while crews cycle through the fatigue zone. An ingress then means fewer eyes, longer seconds, and more room to blend into the background. When a swarm rides tree lines and watercourses at that hour, every hill, rail berm, and warehouse wall becomes a shield. The real stakes sit inside steel and oil. High-voltage transformers are not off the shelf. They are measured, wound, and tested for a specific place on a specific grid. You don't replace them in days. You wait on core steel, copper factory slots, and transport that requires custom rail cars and limited bridges. One unit failing throws load onto neighbors. 3 gone forces frequency control to chase oscillations. Governors hunt. Protection relays trip to save what they can. The system stays up, but pieces blink out to protect the whole. Ukraine has leaned into the math. Low-cost drones fly slow and low, and they bait expensive interceptors that were designed for something else. Every missile fired from a premium battery is money and capacity burned, a magazine that needs replenishment from a supply chain already strained. It's a duel between price points, not just platforms. When you force the other side to spend millions to stop hundreds of thousands, you don't need perfect accuracy, you need persistence. That is where the mismatch shows. S-400 and T-OR units excel against fast, high-altitude threats. They see arcs, not swarms that skim hedges and slip through gaps. Terrain masking hides small signatures until the last minute. Operators switch to close-in systems and short reaction times, but you can't rewrite physics at 3 in the morning. A handful get through if the package stacks timing right. So the headline "No Deal" turns into a technical sequel. Hit 3 transformers and you shift a city more than a week of shells could. Talk stalled, circuits didn't. The next question is the practical one. What actually slipped through that umbrella and reached the yard to jolt the grid's cadence? How do 30 drones make $1 billion defense kneel for a few minutes? The only minutes that matter. By turning every assumption inside the radar room into a liability. The strike package wasn't exotic, it was layered. The main body flew in 196 Labuti drones, slow, cheap, and tuned for low signatures. The last wave hit a trick. FPV decoys tucked into luthier carriers, small pods that could release micro drones on command. They weren't built to win dogfights. They were built to scramble decisions. The opener went as planned for the defenders. Ground-based radar picked up the first wave. S-400 crews spun up, tracked, and launched. Tall smoke columns and clean intercept arcs stitched across the scope. Logs filled with kills. The math looked favorable. Big batteries had swatted slow movers before, and doctrine said keep pushing engagements out. Spend early to keep the perimeter clean and avoid letting targets slip into the inner rings. Confidence rose with each reported splash. That confidence was bait. When the last wave crossed a preset line, the luthier carriers cracked open. Decoys blossomed as tiny returns scattered across the screen. Microdrones flew offset bearings, flickered their radar cross-sections by rolling, and dragged track files into nonsense. Fire control computers tuned for predictable paths now saw ghosts wandering. Auto-prioritization hopped targets as returns merged, split, and reappeared on slightly different vectors. Operators chased the picture instead of owning it. Then the close-in fight arrived. Pantsir and Tor crews took handoff at low altitude. FPV decoys and the surviving AN-196s ran pop-up maneuvers, lifting over tree lines and structures for seconds, then dropping back into masking. The result was short-range, multi-axis engagements where crews had seconds to pick real from feint. Guns switched to optical tracking. Missiles cycled through seekers that liked heat and contrast, neither of which small airframes gave easily at night. A few teams nailed it. A few lost lock when drones ducked behind rail berms and cooling towers. Timing carried the plan. The package flew in offsets, staggered by tens of seconds, layered by altitude bands, and space to force radar modes to switch up and down the stack. Terrain did the rest. Watercourses gave flat corridors, while warehouse rows and forest edges carved blinds. Each band of drones forced a different defense response, breaking the rhythm needed to build a clean kill chain. In the span of 2 minutes, 30 became 23, then 16, but the screen stayed dirty and the inner ring got busy. Money burned. Interceptors cost millions. Drones cost thousands. By the time the inner defenses steadied, Russia had thrown roughly $35 million of missiles into the night at a package worth around $480,000. The accountants don't sit on the fire line, but magazines count in the end. Reload crews can't conjure new rounds in the dark. Each launch tube empty now is a gap later when a faster threat shows up. And each kill on a decoy is a silent tax. Enough survived. The drones that mattered ignored switchyard clutter. Their aim points were 3 high-voltage transformers set in oil baths, boxed by gravel and fencing that stopped nothing with propellers. They didn't need to crater steel. They needed to breach radiators, valves, and bushings, vent oil, and spike thermal stress. A transformer trips to save itself if it can. If it can't, it ruptures. Both outcomes are a win for the attacker when the goal is outage minutes, not fireworks. So the answer lands clean. 30 drones don't outrun a shield. They bend it with decoys, timing, and pop-ups and pull a $35 million defense into the wrong fight. Air defenses fought the sky. The decisive blow happens on the ground next, inside a transformer full of oil and steel where heat, pressure, and protection relays decide who keeps the lights. 3 transformers failed and the grid shuddered. Frequency slipped off 50 hertz, relays shed load, and whole blocks went dark along the ring road while 33,000 apartments lost heat below freezing. $500,000 of drones forced a billion-dollar system to its knees and exposed a supply chain that can't swap cores and windings on demand. That's strategic leverage at discount rates. If you want more breakdowns on how small systems bend big powers, subscribe and tell us which node you want mapped next. Which matters more this winter? Missiles in the air or spare transformers no one can source fast enough?